The mother, spiritual guide of thousands of people, collaborated with Sri Aurobindo to bring down a new consciousness upon the earth. This film gives a glimpse of her life. Her life, like the lives of other great personalities, tells us that even the incarnate divine has to work through the laws of nature. For 53 years, she lived in Pondicherry and worked on the yoga of transformation. The community that grew around her and Sri Aurobindo, although called an ashram, is not a traditional ashram with dress code, rituals, and strict rules. Along with its spiritual aim, it also embraces life in its manifold diversity. From 1920, the mother presided over the formation of the ashram, starting from the 5 members of Sri Aurobindo's revolutionary group to hundreds in Pondicherry and many more around the world. Various units were added to the community, such as the printing press, common kitchens, handicraft industries, furniture workshop, agricultural land, a school, and so on. One of the mother's last major works was the founding of Auroville, an international township dedicated to human unity. But where was the mother before 1920, and what did she do for the first 42 years of her life? Mother was born Mirra Alfassa on February 21st, 1878. Her family straddled the East and West culturally, just as she would spiritually. Her father was a Turkish banker and her mother an Egyptian. They were Jewish by birth, but atheists by choice. They settled in Paris a year before mother was born. She was raised as a French girl. Mother was a precocious child with an insatiable thirst for knowledge. She had finished all 800 books of her father's library and studied her older brother, Matteo's, math lessons. Matteo and she were very close. Later in life, he joined the French diplomatic services. From age 4 onwards, mother used to meditate and had established a connection with her inner being in a few years. During her sleep, many teachers instructed her. One, whom she saw often, she called Krishna. The first book she read about spirituality was Raja Yoga of Vivekananda, and it fascinated her. When she was 21, someone gave her the Bhagavad Gita, and practicing its teachings, she experienced the immanent divine. She was aware of a power within her that protected her and could set right mistakes people were about to commit. In her sleep, she went out of her body and healed people. During the day, her classmates asked her for advice. The next phase of her life was an immersion in an aesthetic world. She joined a prestigious art school, and some of her paintings were exhibited in the renowned Salon. Paris was then the capital of art, with the Impressionists and Post-Impressionists crowding its galleries. Mother married an artist, Henri Morisset, 8 years her senior. Among other commissions, one was to paint murals in a church at Pau. Mother had a son when she was 20. André grew up with his paternal grandfather and aunts, while his parents made a living as artists in Paris, some 100 miles away. Mother started a study circle where people met to discuss spirituality and occultism. Mother always had occult faculties, siddhis, as Indians would call them, such as read people's minds and know the future. Then she met a Polish occultist, Max Theon, and got a systematic training. Twice she traveled to Theon's house in Algeria to learn from him and his wife Alma. They could make objects move from a distance, control powers of nature such as storm, rain, epidemics, commune with spirits of trees, animals, invisible beings, and perform many other miracles. When her son was 10 years old, Mother and Henri Maurice divorced. The next phase of her life was intensely intellectual. She met a scholar, Paul Richard, who became her companion. He was interested in Eastern philosophies, and the two wrote and edited journals together. Mother married him after a few years. Paul had his eye on a political position in the French colony of Pondicherry. He reached a few months after Sri Aurobindo had settled there. Paul did not get elected, but his trip was otherwise fruitful. He had met a yogi, Sri Aurobindo. On his second trip, Mother accompanied him. As soon as she saw Sri Aurobindo, she recognized him to be the Krishna of her vision and knew her future was to participate in his work. Sri Aurobindo, the mother, and Paul Richard started a monthly journal called Arya, where Sri Aurobindo laid out his yoga in a systematic fashion, addressing both the Eastern and Western seekers at the same time. It was translated into French. Unfortunately, soon after, the First World War broke out, and Paul Richard had to return to France to enlist in the reserve army. For 6 years, Sri Aurobindo brought out the Arya alone, a colossal task, serially writing on 7 topics at once. Back in France, Mother fell very sick, and the wartime environment in Paris only made things worse. Her correspondence with Sri Aurobindo helped her brave this impasse. Then a better turn of events followed. Paul Richard got a business assignment in Japan. For the next 4 years, Mother lived in a country surrounded with natural beauty and met a quiet people full of vitality. She started painting again, did Zen meditation, kept a diary where she wrote her prayers, and continued her yoga along with Sri Aurobindo. Finally, in April 1920, she reached Pondicherry, never to leave it again. Paul could not accept Mother's new role as the spiritual collaborator of Sri Aurobindo. For a while, he roamed around India, then reached America and started a center of Asian studies. Mother's son, André, fought in the 2 world wars and was the director of a manufacturing factory. In 1949, at the age of 53, he saw the mother after many years. Ever since, he kept returning to Pondicherry and participated in the ashram's activities. In December 1950, Sri Aurobindo left his body. Mother continued his work in the spiritual plane. Outwardly, she was ever a dynamo of activities and an inspiration. She played tennis even at the age of 70, taught French, gave daily balcony darshans, played the organ, explained the yoga in simple terms, presided over sports events, visited the farms, organized the departments. In 1956, she announced that the supramental consciousness had descended upon the earth, a task she had begun with Sri Aurobindo. At the age of 84, Mother withdrew to her room and concentrated on transforming the very cells of her body. In 1969, she said she had achieved a breakthrough. She was working on a subtle body for herself that would defy death. Her physical body, unable to bear the pressure of her work, started to break down. At the age of 95, she said, her subtle body was ready. On November 17th, 1973, the mother passed on, leaving behind a legacy for all humanity to fulfill, and her help whenever it is asked, for indeed she is always present.